The masks are off. Russia is the victim, NATO is the aggressor. At the end of the Lend-Lease, Americans no longer want to supply weapons to Ukraine. The European Union steals Russian money and gives it to Ukraine. Find out about these and other fakes of Russian propaganda in our new episode. Detector Media did all the dirty fact-checking work for you. We have separated real facts from those of a parallel universe. My name is Vadim Miski. In the next 10 minutes I will tell you about the most impressive examples of Kremlin propaganda, as well as about some international media that use unverified sources of information. Here we go. Russia is the victim and NATO is the aggressor in the war in Ukraine. This manipulative message is being spread by Russian propaganda media.
Понятно, что Европа нам объявила войну, НАТО нам объявила войну, нас пытаются превратить в изгоя, поэтому нам надо готовиться воевать до конца.
Propagandists are changing the narrative and inventing new reasons for the invasion of Ukraine. NATO, of course, is not the aggressor. Some allies are providing military assistance to Ukraine to help it defend itself against Russia's attack, but they are not taking part in the fighting.
NATO allies have and are providing an unprecedented level of military support to Ukraine, also with modern systems. Allies have provided armored vehicles, also battle tanks, advanced air defense systems, and a wide range of different weapons. But I cannot go into the specific systems we are now considering. We are always considering to add more systems. But I think that as important as adding new systems is to ensure that the systems, the weapons we have already delivered, are actually operational, are working in an effective way, meaning that they need a vast amount of ammunition, spare parts, and also maintenance. So, for instance, we have advanced HIMARS systems. We have advanced air defense systems like the NASAMS or the Crotale and the IRIS-T from Germany.
Ukraine receives weapons with a single purpose: to restore its territorial integrity.
Since Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014, NATO has implemented the largest reinforcement of our collective defense in a generation. Now we are doing even more to prevent the conflict in Ukraine from escalating and to protect and defend every inch of Allied territory. We have doubled the number of battle groups in the east of the alliance from 4 to 8. We have also increased our ability to reinforce them up to brigade level. And we are putting more troops on higher readiness, so they are ready to respond whatever and whenever needed.
It was Russia that started the war back in 2014, seized portions of 2 regions and occupied Crimea. And in February 2022, it started a full-scale war against Ukraine.
Consider for a moment the alternative world that Vladimir Putin yearns for. The reason why his onslaught against Ukraine offends every fibre of my being is not simply that it's morally abhorrent, although of course it is. And it has nothing to do with the accident of geography that Putin is waging his war in Europe. No. What really chills the blood is that he is prepared to destroy the laws that protect every nation and by extension every person across the globe. Putin's goal is to turn back the clock to an era when might was right and big countries treat their neighbors as prey.
Are we sending troops to Ukraine? No, we're sending material like we have, billions of dollars.
But the propagandists may get to the find out stage. The war in Ukraine can get out of control and turn into a war between Russia and NATO, according to the concerns of NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. And he added, quote, "We are working every day to avoid this." Americans no longer want to supply weapons to Ukraine. Such fakes are being spread by pro-Kremlin media. The propagandists reference the Washington Post. It supposedly says that American citizens do not support Ukrainians and demand to stop supplying weapons. They claim that Ukraine should sit down at the negotiation table with Russia. This is a fake, Stop Fake Project reports. The article says a strong majority of Americans continue to support sending arms and economic aid to Ukraine, according to the poll. However, the Washington Post noted that the opinions of Americans are divided. The United States will continue to support Ukraine in the fight against the aggressor.
So we have these front lines in eastern and southern Ukraine. There hasn't been a tremendous amount of movement since the very significant recapture of Kherson by the Ukrainian forces. So yes, the strategy is to try to take it to the Ukrainian civilians and, in effect, to get them to cry uncle. It's not going to work. Now, having said that, there's tremendous suffering that's going along with that. And when you're seeing, again, as you're heading into winter, Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, called this the weaponization of winter. That's the effort made by the Russians now. But there's something else happening. Just as we've been working in a very effective and coordinated fashion with dozens of countries to make sure that we were getting the Ukrainians the defensive equipment that they need, the weapons that they need to defend themselves, we're doing the same thing on the energy side of the equation. Working in a coordinated way through the G7, in coordination with the European Union, in coordination with the World Bank, EBRD, and others, to try to make sure that they have the resources as necessary to repair and to replace the components of their electric grid that are being destroyed by the Russians.
Next year, Ukraine expects to receive $38 billion in assistance from the United States. This request was addressed to the Congress by the White House. The European Union steals Russian money and gives it to Ukraine. Such fakes are spread by pro-Kremlin propagandists. They say that Europe is spending Russian money, not its own. However, this is not true. In fact, the case is about 68 billion euros of Russian assets frozen by the EU. The EU is developing a plan to confiscate frozen Russian assets on behalf of Ukraine. In addition, due to the ongoing bloody war, the EU approved the 9th package of sanctions against Russia.
First, we are proposing to add almost 200 additional individuals and entities to our sanctions list. This includes the Russian armed forces, as well as individual officers and defense industrial companies, but also members of the State Duma, of the Federation Council, ministers, governors, and political parties among them. This list covers key figures in Russia's brutal and deliberate missile strikes against civilians and in the kidnapping of Ukrainian children to Russia, and in the theft of Ukrainian agricultural products. High Representative Borrell will tell you more about this. Second, we propose to introduce sanctions against 3 additional Russian banks. We will cut Russia's access to all sorts of drones and UAVs. We propose to ban the direct exports of drone engines to Russia and the export to any third countries, such as Iran, which could supply drones to Russia.
The EU will also provide Ukraine with financial assistance to rebuild the country.
Diese Plattform nun rasch aufzubauen unter Beteiligung der Ukraine, internationaler Finanzinstitutionen und weiterer Partner. Der Wiederaufbau der Ukraine wird eine Menschheitsaufgabe, vergleichbar vielleicht mit dem Marshallplan nach dem Zweiten Weltkrieg. Ich bin überzeugt, es ist unsere Einigkeit, unsere Entschlossenheit, die dazu geführt hat, dass der russische Präsident heute ganz alleine dasteht. Und wir fordern Putin erneut auf, das sinnlose Töten in der Ukraine zu beenden und seine Truppen zurückzuziehen.
This Russian propaganda fake is aimed at discrediting the European Union and its assistance. A graffiti with Volodymyr Zelensky swallowing money like a black hole appeared in Paris. The fake photo was spread by Russian propaganda media. Propagandists reported that the photo of a 3D graffiti caricature of the president of Ukraine was supposedly taken in Paris. As the myth detector fact-checking project discovered, this picture is fake. Investigators have found that the photo shows the exit from the Saint-Mandé metro station. You can see a flower shop next to it. There is no graffiti there. There is a propaganda narrative behind fakes like this. Supposedly, the Ukrainian government is demanding money from the West to wage a war no one needs, or to get rich. However, the Russian propaganda's attempts are ineffective as Ukraine friends protected.
We and our allies must help our Ukrainian friends not just to take out the drones and the missiles, and that means supplying them with anti-aircraft systems and fixed-wing aircraft to help shoot them down, but also to take out the launch sites of those missiles and drones by supplying the Ukrainians with the use of longer-range missile systems such as ATACMS, because that is the way truly to protect our Ukrainian friends and to bring the war to an end as soon as possible.
К чему мы движемся, на ваш взгляд? Все только хуже будет становиться дальше?
Ну, мы не движемся, мы уже приехали на станцию под названием «Конфронтация». Нас никто не любит, и любить особо нас не собирается.
Mr. Peskov is right. Russia has indeed arrived. However, not to the confrontation station, but to the defeat station. Ukraine will win. Have a good day and see you next time.